I can't go out without changing my clothes, my shoes, my body posture. I can't do what I want to do with my own body. And who in the hell set things up like this? I was wrong again to be me being me where I was. Wrong to be who I am. I am very familiar with the problems of the CIA, and the problems of white America in general, and the problems of the teachers and the preachers and the FBI and the social workers and my particular mom and dad. I am very familiar with the problems because the problems turn out to be I am the history of the terrorized incarceration of myself. I am the history of battery, assault, and limitless armies against whatever I want to do with my mind and my body and my soul. I am not wrong. Wrong is not my name. And I can't tell you who the hell set things up like this. But I can tell you that from now on, my resistance, my simple and daily and nightly self-determination may very well cost you your life.
What
Can
up?
you can you hear me?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah. It was really weird. I could hear the intro music in the other room, but I couldn't hear it on my device.
Well, that is
Could
interesting.
you hear it?
hmm I be
Oh.
grooving all the time.
Yeah, I missed it. I like to yeah. Anyway, it's good to
It's
see
a
you.
movie. Me too. After our restful break,
Yeah, I wanted to start right there about rest. We took a break and what happened? Did you rest?
hmm I did. I'm still resting.
And what
I
kind of
decided
rest? What
um all the types. So
all the
um
times?
yeah, like I wasn't physically doing stuff. I wasn't mentally thinking about much. This is the first time for me that August wasn't full of stress and chaos because I'm not doing back to school stuff. I didn't
Yeah.
have professional development. I didn't have dealing with students trying to figure their schedules out and figuring out if the room has enough seats for the number of people. I didn't have none of that.
Mm.
So without the normal stress of being a professor, I didn't like that's where all my energy goes to for the month of August. And because I didn't have that, I didn't have nothing to do. So it was
He was
good.
like, "Oh, August is actually a nice month."
It was great. It has been amazing. What about you?
Yes, I rested over the course of the 2 weeks. I probably worked a combined, like, lighthouse work, maybe 6 hours. And I think that's probably the first time that so for me, that's considered like not working. And that's probably the first time I've ever done that over the break. So that was really nice. I purged some things. So I was active. Um, not necessarily resting in the lounging sense, but it was really good to purge a lot of clothes and some house stuff. Um, so that it wasn't rest, but it was freeing. It felt freeing, and that
Yeah,
was really good.
and I think I'm not I don't associate lounging with rest all the time.
Hmm.
Because sometimes for me, rest is doing something that allows, like you say, freeing, something that allows it frees up my mind, it frees up my
Hmm.
energy.
Hmm.
But sometimes it does require me to be in motion and movement. So yeah, I can see how purging could be restful.
That's
I could
exactly it.
see, you know. hmm
We Well, you know this. We moved into a different house at this point a little more than a year ago, and there were things that had been on my list to do in terms of purging cuz it was my intention to do it before we moved, but the schedule was super packed and like I said, still working during the break. And so I had not even really thought about that until you said that. So that was like it wasn't a huge load, but that was a part of mental load from like for like the past year. And
Yeah,
so it's just like,
yeah.
whew.
Yeah, I've been resting. I'm partially for Black August, but I'm not on social media this month, so that's very restful. And I've really been just listening to a lot of music, instrumental music, particularly,
Mm.
just because, um, and new music, just because there's a something restful for me in listening to music. So yeah, different kinds of rest, but making sure I'm not doing work related. I haven't really done much lifting of things.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, I'm weird in the way that folding clothes is relaxing to me.
You should come to my
Folding,
house every
folding,
two
my, clo-
weeks.
folding my clothes. There we go. Yep, I knew where that was going. Folding my
Oh,
clothes is relaxing to me.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think and I realized that 2 weeks is if you take 2 weeks to rest, it is enough time for you to be rejuvenated, like to reset you. Because just like, for people like us who work through a break, we'd be like, damn, 2 weeks wasn't enough. Yeah, because you didn't rest. That's why.
Uh-huh. Because
But
you
if
didn't
you rest,
pause. Yeah.
yeah, 2 weeks, it really is a good amount of time to be like, huh, okay, I feel good. So yeah,
Yes.
that's what I've been on. You
You
know,
mentioned something that I was going to bring up for what's going on in my black girl world, listening to new music. Oh gosh, I texted this to you yesterday. I listened to the first 6 songs on Rhapsody's album. So that happened. But then today, well, this morning, I saw a clip of her in an interview with some person. I don't know who the person was. Um, and she talked about a part of the way that she got to the themes for this album. She talked about Harvard. I think it's the Harvard project, Harvard experience, something. Anyway, so she had a conversation with Chat GPT and asked Chat GPT how to reverse engineer the Harvard project. And so that's where this album came from. It's part of the inspiration. So as soon as I saw that, even though I told you I had listened to the album, I immediately was like, "Oh, I got to bring this up to Charity."
link me to that.
Okay, I will.
Cause what?
Uh,
No,
yeah,
because
I'm gonna text it to you
uh
right now.
I'm just, yeah, I'm just thinking, man, what? I'm thinking, man, what? Because I don't think that's what I heard. And I'm always I need a better word than critical, but I just distrust Chat GPT in general. So I'm curious to how it told her to reverse engineer and how it resulted in, because reverse engineer is a very specific term.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm trying to figure out what she meant by that. Oh, I get it. It's not the Harvard. It's not the Harvard. I know what she's talking about. This is crazy, and it's not crazy in a negative way. But no, 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 not bad at all. She's talking about the Harvard report
Oh,
about.
Harvard
So
report. That's the word. Yeah.
Harvard did a report about how music companies should market to Black people.
Mhm.
The thing is, I did an oral history with, what is his name? He became the first, he was from South Memphis. He became the first head of CBS's Black Music under Clive Davis because he wrote something, um, and I don't want to say collaboration, but he took the Harvard report about how to market Black music and how to market Black music to white audiences, stuff like that, and
Mhm.
used it as the head of CBS Black Music. So I don't know if reverse engineer is, um I can see I don't know if reverse engineer is the accurate word here, but I can see how this album intentionally tries to push back against some of those things. I also see how I could use this album to do exactly what the Harvard report does.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way it presents black culture. I mean, it's called God's Got an Afro. I can market that to the mainstream, right?
Oh yeah.
I can market that to the underground, right? And I think that's one of the things. So I don't know if reverse engineering is a term that's not being used correctly here. So I'll have to read it. Cause yeah, Chat GPT. I don't trust Chat GPT's ability to tell a person how to reverse engineer that. I don't trust that. So I don't
That's what
know.
she said. And I was just like, oh, this lady isn't smart, I don't think.
Yeah, I think she's smart. I wouldn't say she's not smart.
Really?
Well, why would you say she's not smart?
So this isn't fair. Um,
We don't care about fair.
this isn't fair. Well, because I'm making a claim. I'm saying out loud a thought that I had that isn't grounded in a lot outside of the things that some of the lyrics that I heard yesterday, and then, I listened to her album right before this one. I listened to that whole album maybe two or three times. A lot of the things she says is just like putting words together because they go together, not necessarily because the things don't necessarily make sense. Like that Apple Juice song on this new album, it sounds cute, except for she keeps saying she puts. Maybe it's I get too hung up on liter things being literal sometimes. Like you're like sugar in my apple juice. Well, you shouldn't put sugar in your apple juice.
Yeah, that's that. I think. See, yes, maybe the literalism of the lyricism is hanging you up because that's the contradiction, right? Because it's talking about kind of being head over heels, being in love in a way
Yeah.
that's like, this is too sweet. You get what I'm saying? Like, so I think what she's saying is you're too like either you're too sweet or I'm too sweet on you. Like that's because no sugar in your apple juice that you shouldn't you
You
shouldn't
shouldn't do that.
you should not do that. But
You
I but
shouldn't do that.
when I hear it, it's that's the point, right? Because the idea that love makes us do things that aren't logical, that aren't in our best interest, but like when we're doing those things, they sound good. So when I heard the song, I was like, I like this song because putting sugar in your apple juice does describe how crazy people get or how foolish people like the foolish things people do when they're in love.
Yeah.
That
I
so
I
when I
did
heard it, I was
say
like, that sounds great because you should not put sugar in your apple juice. But that's a metaphor for the foolish things we do when we're in love.
okay, so here's the thing. So I love literary devices and I did not think metaphor. But anyway, we're spending too much time on this. I'm sorry. But yeah, so between that and then the little clip of the interview I saw, I was just like, oh, I don't feel brightness from this bulb. And I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm not even trying to be mean. I like that's just what I thought.
That I don't feel that's I'm gonna use that. I don't feel brightness from this bulb. That's lyrical right there. You feel me? Yeah. I don't feel brightness from this bulb. Oof, oof, that's a bar.
Oh,
Um,
what's
yeah.
going on in your
Maybe
black
you
girl
should be
world?
maybe you should be a rapper. That maybe you should be a rapper.
I don't know if I'll be able to ride the beat right.
You don't have to.
That's true. These days you don't. I will say I reserve that because that'll make us go down a whole other thing, and we won't even touch on. But I will say, and let me just say this, and then you got to tell me what's going on in your black girl world, and we're going to touch on our topics and bounce because we both tired. So I was trying to understand this idea of riding the beat yesterday, on this very long car ride that I was on. And the people in the car established that Big Boy is the line. He is the best, worst rapper and the worst, best rapper. So I had never really paid attention to that. And so I like closed my eyes to listen and like focus on, okay, what does riding the beat, like what does that mean? How does that show up? And then I established that Beyonce rides the beat better than Big Boy when she's rapping.
Okay. I I can I don't yeah. Oh, I'll buy that. I don't know what that that's it's super subjective. So if that's how you hear it, that makes sense.
I'm not saying like
No. I'm just saying that makes
that
sense.
she's
I
like a
don't.
good rapper or anything, but just like, oh, okay, if this is what riding the beat or not riding the beat is. So I went and listened to a couple songs from that the Carter's album that people made fun of. But specifically for the parts where she was rapping. And I was like, oh yeah, she rides the beat better than Big Boy. So
Yeah, I can't comment because I'll never go listen to Beyonce rap, so I'll never be able to tell you whether or not that's true. Um,
okay.
so I'll just have to take your word for it because yeah, mm-mm. I, you couldn't pay me to listen to that woman rap, and I need
Mm.
money. You feel me? So there's,
Okay, what's going
there's
on in your black girl world?
um moving. It's been the same themes all summer.
For the
Transition.
yeah.
I'm in Minneapolis again at my friend's co-working space. It looks like I'm doing a hostage video because there's no
It
background.
does.
Yeah, but if I flipped it around, it's a really dope podcast studio he set up here. Yeah, I'm like I say, I'm proud of him because I remember when he bought this building and what his vision was to do with it. And every time I come back here, something new is in here. So it's always exciting for me and inspiring for me to be in to community is not the word I want to use because that's just so trite now. But to be able to be around folks who are consistently putting in work that I can see, right? It's super inspirational. It's yeah, it's inspirational and it's motivational. To be coming back home into a space where a lot of people are doing really cool stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
last night, my other these both of my friends are like brothers to me. Um, one of them he had a show at his art gallery that featured like some of the city's like OG artists that he had at his gallery yesterday, and that was cool. So it's good to be back. I'm going to the Minnesota State Fair this weekend with a friend of mine that I've known since I was like 12 years old, and I haven't been to the fair since I was a kid. And the big thing is that they're bringing back Santa Bear. And I realized that Santa Bear is a Minneapolis, it's a Minnesota thing. Have you ever heard of Santa Bear?
Mm-mm.
Okay, real quick. So there's this department store that was called Dayton's, and it was the flagship department store in Minnesota. Dayton family owned it. It was big. When the Dayton family went into politics, they sold them all to Marshall. They sold them all to Marshall Fields, and then they all became Macy's. But when we grew
Oh,
up,
okay.
called Dayton's, and every year Dayton's would release a Santa Bear. So from like 1983 something to like 2007, every year there would be a bear, a little polar bear, dressed up in a Santa hat, or one year he was like an aviator, but every year
Oh,
there
that's
was a
cute.
Santa Bear. Right. So I have pictures of me when I was like 3 or 4, and like somebody's aunt or someone brought like all the kids in the family a Santa Bear. So I have friends who like got a Santa Bear every year that they were kids, but I always thought that Santa Bears were a universal thing. It's not until now that was like, no, only Dayton's had them, and now that the Dayton's family is like not in politics anymore, I guess they're like coming back to like,
Oh,
I
that's
guess,
really interesting.
yeah. So this year at the state fair, they're bringing back Santa Bear, so everybody's excited about like, oh my gosh, Santa Bear's coming back. And I say that because as I'm doing stuff to preserve Black history in the Twin Cities, there's so many things that I just run up against that I didn't realize were so significant. Like, yeah, it was significant to me, but I didn't really know how big Santa Bear was as like a thing. Like
Yeah.
my friends are like, man, I can't, I still cry when my mama threw my Santa Bears. You know what I mean? So it's like those things, people had all and stuff. And you can Google them like every Santa Bear for every year. So it's just fun to just it's really just fun to rediscover a city that you grew up in as an
Mhm.
adult. Um so yeah, it's just been super fun. It's been a good welcome home.
That's sweet. It will the Santa Bear at the fair be is a like a life size?
No, this one's little.
Oh, like a beanie baby.
Mm-mm. It's like a stuffed bear.
Okay,
It's like a stuffed bear, but like a this size stuffed bear.
I got
The
you.
other ones used to be big. And I think
Oh,
they
okay.
made yeah. So you can Google it, like the Santa, yeah. Mhm.
That's cute.
When I
That's
find a picture,
also a
I'll
sweet
send it to you.
memory. Like a sweet
Yes,
memory, and then to be able to come back to that as an adult. That's
yeah,
sweet.
it's pretty cool. It really is. Yeah. So I'm in a good space. I'm enjoying myself. The weather's nice here. You know what I'm saying? Like Minneapolis summers are really dope. Coming from Memphis, where it was like 104 degrees for like the last however many days, having
Hmm.
an 80-degree day, it it's beautiful. So I'm in good spirits. I'm rejuvenated. I'm hanging out with my dad, hanging out with my childhood friends. Life is good. My black girl is full. It's full. It's just full.
Hmm. That's special. I'm happy for you. Charity. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about our topic for today. I think,
Yeah. How
yeah.
do what is it? I can't see the words because our
What
pictures
do
is
we
in.
owe those who came before us?
Yep.
In the spirit of Black August, we won't spend, really time talking about Black August itself, just assuming that most of the people who are listening know what Black August is. Um, but in that spirit, what do we owe people who came before us?
Oh,
Um, oh,
sorry.
go.
Forgot the
No,
chat.
go.
Forgot. Sorry. Nope.
Go.
Nope. You do this because we're gonna go to the chat at a certain time.
Okay. What do we owe the people who came before us? And how do we um how do we keep ourselves from mythologizing the people who came before us? Keeping them human, right? Which I think is a part of the beauty of people who have fought before us is their humanity. So yeah.
Yeah. All
What
right.
what do, what do we owe George Jackson?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't.
Neither.
I don't know that we I think we have an odd relationship to how we inherit, progress, struggle, like specifically the struggle for liberation going
Hmm.
forward. Because if I'm introduced to George Jackson in 2026, I'm not. I'm a problem because I was reading stuff younger than I should have been reading. Like I was reading Blood in My Eye like in middle school. And
I didn't even know it existed when I was in middle school.
yeah, it wasn't it set me up for not in a negative way, but I was just very serious. I've always been like a jokester, but some things I just took very seriously because as a kid I felt this obligation. I think
Mm,
what not I think, but what I didn't realize until I got older is that we can't continue the struggle they lived in their time because
Mhm.
our conditions are different. So
Mhm.
sometimes we take the idea of taking up the mantle without recognition that the struggle they had in their time in a lot of ways is fundamentally different in its operation now, or should be, right? Because what we do sometimes is we try to use the same tactics that they used, forgetting that when systems of oppression, specifically whiteness, adjust, those same exact tactics are not as useful or impactful and can sometimes be weaponized against us. So I think sometimes in our attempt to continue the struggle in the ways that we understand our predecessors to do, we 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 lose ourselves in the context that we're we also inherit that we inherit the struggle, but we live in a time that's never been lived in before.
That made me think of two things at once when you were talking. One is how often, not even just in this particular conversation or instance, how often we isolate people and situations from context, which then puts us in a position to mythologize the people as opposed to seeing them as humans.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't see, now this is a personal take. Not It's not a personal take, but I don't see myth and humanity as um irreconcilable. I see them
Mhm.
in the best ways operating. I believe that myth can accentuate and what's the word I want to use? It can, yeah, I want to say accentuate people's humanity rather than necessarily making them superhuman or like, I don't think mythologizing people and deifying people are the same thing. I think
Mhm.
that we when used properly, we can mythologize people in ways that accentuate their humanity.
I definitely agree with that. I think more often than not we don't. More often than not I don't think, well, yeah, more often than not I don't think, based on the ways I hear people talk about the heroes and heroines, whoever those may be, I don't think they're doing it in such a way that accentuates their humanity, but rather it strips them of humanity. And I think that because, back to the first thing, it's not acknowledging context or the conditions in which they were living. And by conditions in this part, I don't mean oppressive systems. I mean, when people talk about Fannie Lou Hamer, for example, and this is not anything that you or your peers or whatever would do, but like when we reduce Fannie Lou Hamer to "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired," or only see Fannie Lou Hamer as a person who was active during the civil rights movement and don't recognize the things that were done to her physically and psychologically, or her commitment to like co-ops, and like if we just reduce her, it's the reductionism. Maybe that's what I'll say. The reductionism leads to a mythology that is absent the full context of a person and their lives.
Yeah, I get the reduction part. And again, I don't think you can make good. See, here's, you can't make good myth if you don't deeply know the truth and the context and the conditions. I think right, you can't make myth if you don't know a lot about the thing and its context, because the context is where you build the myth, because those are the stories like y'all don't even understand what, like, Do you understand that she was doing these things under these conditions? That's where it's like, dang, she was cold. Right. Because the thing in and of itself may not be that amazing. But when you put it in context, now you got a woman who's like, dang, she was the coldest. So for me, the reductionism is
Mhm.
maybe lazy myth making, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because it's like, if you don't know that about Fannie Lou Hamer, then like, don't quote her. If
Yeah.
you don't know these things about Fannie Lou Hamer, don't put her on your t-shirt or
Yeah.
put her on your blog, because now you not myth making, right? You not passing on the myth, you are reducing her to
Mhm.
something that we don't even get to inherit, right? So
Mhm.
when we do
Mhm.
reduction stuff, then we get robbed of the opportunity to inherit the wonderful ways that our heroes, because regular something has to be extraordinary for you to become a hero.
Yes.
And that's, for me, that's the part that myth brings to the ordinary person. For me, myth is the thing that takes you from just a person doing things to somebody like, they did what, when, how, like
Yeah.
the creativity is what. Yeah, oh, they started a school, oh, okay. Oh, they started a school and they taught themselves how to read, and then they made the paper for the books, and it, like, you know what I mean, like in a time
Mhm.
where you couldn't access paper, so they had to. That's when it gets like, okay, right, that's the fun thing.
So this kind of reminds me a little bit of, and I only was aware of that Harvard report um because of that Rhapsody
Logan
referencing
Westbrook.
it.
Sorry.
Oh, that's the man.
Yep.
Okay. Say the name again.
Logan Westbrooks.
Okay. So what it reminds me of is the ways we take people who are hero heroes and heroines of movement, whatever those movements may be, and reduce them for the purposes of marketing. And so, and consumption, which, I mean, at some point every conversation we have on this platform goes back to that in some kind of way. Excuse me. So it makes me think of, to your point, when I was in junior high, my uncle was the principal. And I can't remember if it was seventh or eighth grade. I think it was eighth grade was the year that the Spike Lee's Malcolm X came out. And all all the guys, of course not all, but everybody was wearing X stuff, X merchandise, X on their t-shirts and their hats or whatever. And my uncle, I distinctly remember the principal of our school, who happened to be my uncle, walking up to people wearing X paraphernalia and asking, like, give me three facts about this person. Tell me who Malcolm X was. What did he do? Whatever. And if you couldn't, he would make you take your baseball cap off, take your shirt off and turn it inside out and put it up. Like, you don't get to walk around wearing this and don't have an understanding of who this person is. Did you go see the movie? What did you learn from the movie? What about the movie was accurate and what about the movie was maybe made up for the purposes of the movie? So yeah, I think for a long time I have been really sensitive to that because it was just a thing I saw happen in real time in my formative years. So it's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna wear a T-shirt with Asada Shakur's face on it if I don't know anything about Asada Shakur. Like, why are you doing that? Just like, no. I mean, that's cool that Target made a T-shirt with whatever, back in the day. This is pre whatever's happening now, but but why you got that on?
Because I mean, people want to, people want to signal that they're proud of being black, but it's easier to do that than to actually. I was just having this conversation about being pro black now doesn't have any stipulations, right? I think we
Mm,
both kind of grew up in an era where, because I used to do the same thing with my students when I was teaching in Oakland. I'd be like, if you wear any
mhm,
black, because you're in Oakland, if you wear any Black Panthers stuff, I'm like, run me to 10, like run me to 10-point platform or take this
mhm,
off, right?
mhm,
And that's with everything. I had a kid, a student, he was like my little brother, and it was a Supreme hoodie, and it had the album cover from Capone and Noriega's The War Report. And I was just like, what's your favorite song off this album? And he was like, well, I don't know. I didn't even know this was an album. I just know this is the new Supreme release. And if I have this, the bitches is on me. Right.
You
And I
gotta
was
at
like,
least know it's an album, bro. Even if you never listened to it, that's crazy.
but the album literally came out like before he was born. But this is when we talk about inheritance, right?
Mhm,
Because for me, one of the things that I feel that I'm responsible for as a black person who says they care about black people and want to operate towards, liberation is it's my responsibility to understand the folks that came before me in the traditions that I operate in. So if I
mhm,
say I'm a person who's a part of hip hop culture, it's my responsibility to know stuff that came out before I was born. Because if I start with my entry point into hip hop culture and it's whenever I'm introduced to it as my frame of reference for something that existed 30 years before, I'm
mhm,
doing a disservice to myself as somebody who now can't be a part of the culture because I don't know what it stands on. And the same
mhm,
thing happens for people who come into like consciousness or movement. Whatever their entry point is, they're not like, hey, I need to go back before I was born and see. This is why it bothers me when people always ask me like, well, what can we do about this? Bro, the black scholars and the black revolutionaries in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, we can go all the way back to like Martin Delaney saying Africa for Africans. I mean, yeah, Africa for Africans.
mhm.
In 2026, the solutions aren't fundamentally new solutions. The context that we operate in is different, but what we inherit, if anything, is an obligation to know what they were doing in the context, what they were struggling for and against in the context. If for no other reason that if I say that I operated in the tradition of women like June Jordan, Asada Shakur, Fannie Lou Hamer, I can't not know what they were doing. I can't not
Mhm,
know the conditions because, you know, I love June Jordan, but she didn't get to grow old. And
mhm,
I say that because I start thinking about all the black women radical writers who died of cancer, right?
mhm,
Who died
mhm,
prematurely. So if I say that I'm part of that tradition, I need to understand the
mhm,
tolls that it took on their health, their
mhm,
wellness, their
mhm.
well-being. So I think what we inherit is the obligation to understand.
To know.
Yes, that's what we inherit. We inherit the obligation to know and then to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And then those who did not die early, so many of them ended their lives ended dementia, Alzheimer's. Just yeah. Like this this world will eat you alive if you're fighting against it.
Yeah, 100%.
It will
And
not it will eat you. It is eating you alive.
yeah, especially
Like
and the unfortunate thing about the era that tries to make us believe that we can build liberatory community, that we can build black liberation on the white man's social media is we don't understand how much isolation accelerates our demise,
mhm.
right? We think that if I'm in my space and I'm just, no pun intended, tweeting or putting out the content that's radical or revolutionary from my personal space, that I'm fulfilling my obligation. When the
But
reality,
yeah.
communalism necessary.
That's what I was just about to say. Radicalism and revolutionaryism and movement building and movement sustaining, none of that can be done in isolation.
It
None
can't.
of it. It cannot.
It literally cannot. Now we
Because,
all need to understand the importance of solace and solitude, but
yes,
that's not the same as isolation.
it's not. Because also, what good is your individual freedom if the people around you aren't free? Like, that's not responsible freedom. Like, that is not.
And it's not, and it's also not freedom.
That's why I just kind of looked up. I was like, is that freedom though?
Yeah, but again, it depends on your mindset. I think another issue is that we are trying to fit square pegs and round holes. We are trying to fit individual understandings of freedom into how we should collectively move towards it. And that ain't never going to be how it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That ain't that. Yeah. But yeah, I think, so going back to like, what do we owe George Jackson? In the knowing, here's what I want people to focus a little bit more on, and this goes into Black August. Um, Understanding that when folks get imprisoned for political reasons, or when they're in prison and they become politicized because they start understanding some things, um, we should be more invested and involved in staying connected with those folks,
Mm.
right? That's what we should learn. And the reality is, now it's more difficult to communicate with incarcerated folks than it used to be. So we have to find ways that our predecessors, we have to, deal with obstacles they didn't have to deal with, and they had some that we don't have to deal with. But for me, if we're talking about George Jackson specifically, but political prisoners in general, how do we make more effort to stay connected with them, to ensure that we are incorporating and including them with how we are pursuing liberation? Because ultimately, we want them the opportunity, we want them to be able to experience some of it on the other side, right? So continuing to stay in communication with them is something that, yeah, our comrades who are incarcerated deserve, um, more of our support and attention, for sure.
That also makes me think, um, people back to isolation, but isolation for other reasons, isolation for political reasons. It makes me think of Asada Shakur. Like, wait, what are we doing to ensure that people who have been made into political lepers, I guess is the best way to put it. That's the first thing that comes to mind. That we are not reducing them also and including them in being intentional about including them in the world that is around them when circumstances have it such that for the most part they have to be isolated or have very limited contact with other people. Like, what can we do to be inclusive, not in a trite way? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Not so much. I think I'm hinging too much on the Asada part
Hmm.
and losing the point you're making.
um there are people among us who are not imprisoned but are not free, in air quotes free, and we have to be just as intentional about making sure that they are still part of community. I know we talk about community being a like a catch-all word, but that they are still a part of.
Give me an
I wish
example.
I wish I could find a better way to say this.
Yeah, because I'm trying to find it. Because if I have an example, I'll be like, oh, I see what you mean. Because you said not incarcerated, but not part of the community.
I so I know one person who is on the FBI watch list. For
Okay.
that reason, there are people who intentionally do not engage him because I don't know what they think that some FBI watch list debris is gonna get on them. I don't know what you're thinking, but you can we can still be. You're still my friend. Your well-being is still important to me, and so if that means that I have to risk uh FBI watch list debris getting on me, that's a thing that I'm gonna do, like, because you are important to me.
Yeah, I think you just drew the line because the reality is, oh, sometimes we be wanting to be in community with people that don't like. If I'm on an FBI watch list, first of all, if I'm on a, I am, but you'll know this about the people that you're friends with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So saying that, oh, this that means that's not really a person that is part of your team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody doesn't get on the FBI watch list overnight.
Yeah.
So if you're friends with this person, then you know their politics. You know how they move. You know how they get
Right.
down.
Right.
So yeah. So I think that's the maybe the idea that if you claim that you care about people, um, be willing to risk something for that care. And the thing is, I don't understand what somebody would. That's a personal choice. Like, I'm listening, but I don't even believe that to be true. Like I can't talk to you anymore because you're on the FBI list. I feel like that's an excuse for something else.
That could very well be the case. That could very
Oh, I
very
don't
well be
believe
the
that
case.
to be
That
sincere
is not even.
reason.
Yeah, that could very well be the case. I'm sorry that came out so cumbersome. I don't know, sometimes words and me just don't get along. But yeah.
You don't gotta apologize because part of what we do is thinking through it, right? Because as you were talking, I was thinking that one of the most beautiful things about the way I understand the journey of Asada Shakur is
Mhm.
that she was able to she was able to be part of um folks. She was able to to live among folks in Cuba who provided her the exact treatment she desired and needed and deserved once she left here. There's I always go back to this interview where she was like, even with the language barrier, the love I get here, the
Mhm.
way I don't have to look over my shoulder here,
Mhm.
it's more liberatory here than what I was trying to accomplish in the United States. So I think for me, I was like, also, we 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 should inherit an obligation to each other's safety and well-being wherever we be at,
Mhm.
right? Like, um, this is it's an online conversation because it's fine, but like I didn't know where y'all was gonna be, and I was like, oh, if y'all are gonna be in Raleigh, I know somebody in Raleigh. Like,
Mhm.
I think he's out of town, but it's like if y'all ever come to Minneapolis, right, and y'all are part of the people who I consider comrades, then I'm obligated to open up space for you to feel the love and be received here wherever
Mhm.
we are, right? I
Mhm.
think that's
Mhm.
probably that. I think that's what we should inherit yeah, the obligation, the and it's not so much obligation, the privilege, right? The privilege of being able to receive each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I get from when I, the revolutionary heroes I look at, like they was able to move in spaces that they had never been to, and somebody's gonna meet them and be like, "Hey, greetings, comrade. Like I
Greet
got
them with
you."
love. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we should that's something we should cherish and try to carry forward for sure.
Yeah. I don't know you, but I know you. And so your physical and psychological safety is important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the, and also this is one of the things that you see with folks who do invest in political prisoners, right? And those who are political prisoners and speak when once they're released, speak about how people still poured into them while they were incarcerated. Those are
Mm-hmm.
some of the surprising things that always warmed my heart. It was like, yeah, I was isolated, but there were people who were trying every way they could to make sure I felt like somebody somewhere still cared about me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we should inherit. We should inherit
Mm-hmm.
that, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't got to inherit slogans. We don't got to inherit hairstyles and rhetoric. If we can inherit that that privilege to say you always will know that somebody cares about you,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we owe.
It's like growing up during testimony service at church, and people would be like, I can still feel my grandmother's prayers. Like, yeah, yeah, that's what we
Yeah,
need. That's what we want. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah, because that carries forward, you know. And here's the thing, right? Um Inheritance is like what you get when somebody passes. You get it regardless, right? But I think there's something different from what you inherit and what gets passed down. Because passing down something is
That's good.
ritualized.
That's
It's
good.
in
I like that. Yeah.
tradition, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
something you have brought into to understand its importance so you
Mm-hmm.
can carry it on. Because
Mm-hmm.
we inherit just because that's what people leave us. But what's
And an
passed down,
inheritance doesn't even necessarily have anything to do, to your point about the relationship between you and the person or the groups of people. Like an inheritance, it just is. Like you gonna get that regardless.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think we need to acknowledge that we inherit tools. I'm not the biggest post traumatic slave syndrome fan, because and it's not her fault. It's never my issue with the people. It's always my issue with the way the thing gets done, right? So for me, it's people have forgotten that you don't just inherit stress and trauma, you also inherit resilience and stuff like that you have
Mm-hmm.
to use to deal with that trauma, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you want to go to the chat for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Oh, this is what I wanted to comment. Somebody said, "Oh, thank you all for saying hey to us." Somebody said, "Yes, we have Santa Bear in Michigan." See,
Mm.
Midwest have some similar things. And she says our Macy's was called Hudson's. Yeah. Oh, there was some Dayton Hudson's stores actually. So I think
Mm.
there's a connection between like families owning department stores. But yeah, it's so cool to know that Michigan has Santa Bears. Michigan is I always fuck with Michigan. Yep. What else we see in the chat? Natalie, you see any cool stuff?
Someone said myth and humanity have a dialectical relationship. Myth can impact back on humanity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Um,
You were allowed to wear baseball caps in school? Yes, actually. Lots of things
listen.
changed in 8th grade. Um, when Charlotte threw that hammer at Mrs. King, lots of things changed after that.
That's
I
unfortunate.
never
Shout out to
I
Charlotte.
never told you that story before.
Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah.
You'll have to tell me. Shout
Yeah.
out to Charlotte and shout out to Miss T, wherever you are. I hope you're safe. Um, yeah. Uh, man, someone says I just lost a friendship with someone because the other person couldn't understand this. Yeah, that I think we have to be what's the word? Courageous enough to I've been passing on this word since a friend gave it to me. A lot of us are comfortable with the people that we've known, um, and acknowledging that you can separate from people, and then the space will be filled with people who more align with you,
Mhm.
and that it doesn't have to be a bad thing, or you don't have to hate people that are not like in your circle anymore. I think sometimes we forget or just don't realize that just because you and somebody aren't as close as you used to be, or you aren't aligned as much as you used to be, doesn't mean you
There
don't
can
care
still be
about each
love
other,
there. Yeah,
right?
there can still be love there.
100%. I think we, yeah, I think we sometimes assume that like when the dynamics of a friendship or relationship changes, then you got to end the friendship. Sometimes you do, sometimes you do,
Sometimes you do, but we
but you
don't
can
always
still,
have to be so
yeah,
all or nothing.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. No, friends, we're not dropping a
Um,
link to join today. Because we're on an expedited schedule.
we eased back into this thing, I'm about to go get my keys to my new spot in like an hour and a half. I will be putting a registry up. A friend of mine was like, "Let people help you." And I was like, I never thought of that. And I'm not asking people to put stuff in there, but just saying the idea of like, let people help
Hmm.
you, right? We want community, but sometimes we don't want to be vulnerable. This is also what we inherit. You have to be vulnerable, right? You have to be vulnerable to build the type of intimate bonds that are necessary for us to be liberated. That shit is
Yeah.
scary.
Hmm.
But, just asking for help. Like my homeboy, he's like, "You gonna move the stuff yourself?" Like, don't do that. Yep. I was like, yeah, I'm
Look,
gonna move it myself.
right,
He was like,
right,
no,
right. I don't have to do that.
why do that when you have people to help? And you and Josephus, y'all are always like, people can help you. We can help you, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, man, happy Black August. For those of you that don't know, saying happy for certain type of events and activities is just so
We don't
counterintuitive.
like it.
Right. We don't celebrate Black August. We commemorate Black August. Right.
Yeah.
Something. Happy
Happy
birthday.
Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth. Yeah.
No,
But
thank you.
some people don't know what to say. I had somebody be like, Happy Black August. And I was like, I'm not gonna your sentiment was received. We can
Hmm.
talk later about the politics, right?
Just be like,
But like,
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
yeah. But it's been good. Any book recommendations or stuff for if it's like Black August stuff? Read this, watch this.
The first thing that came to mind, just because I heard book recommendations, is not Black August or even adjacent. Well, I guess in some ways a lot of things are adjacent, but I just recommended Warson Shires teaching my mother to give birth to a young woman. We ordered that for some young women, but I just recommended that to her. I don't know. I like a good book of poetry. Good poetry. A good book of good poetry. And I think, but
Yes, not
to
spoken
this
word.
end, yes,
Yeah.
stop spoken word. Um, I intend to reread Asada this year. And so I think I would say that.
Yeah.
Sometimes
As
I
we
think
as we
this.
roll out.
Oh, I was just gonna say. Sometimes I think instead of, I mean, of course, there's nothing wrong with reading new books, but sometimes I think one of the ways that we grow and stretch ourselves is to reread things we've already read.
100%. I
Yeah.
think I read Asada like 4 times because I'm different every time I read it, so I pick up
Right.
different stuff from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend Sophia Bukhari's The War Before.
Mm.
Amazing about a woman and her journey into radicalism, into being a political prisoner, into being released, convert. So it's really good because she talks about so many different aspects of her involvement. And then for movies, I always recommend Death is Dope, about the Black Panther Party and the Young Lords in New York, and their efforts to use acupuncture to deal with health issues, specifically like heroin addiction and stuff like that.
Mm.
Uh, because that takes expertise. You can't just be like, we just gonna do acupuncture. Like you have to have people in the community trained in that type of stuff, willing to
Yeah.
train other folks, and you know what I mean. So it shows how organized and committed you have to be to actually change material conditions in communities.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I haven't heard of that one. I'll check that out.
Which one, the doc or the book?
The book.
I'll send you a PDF.
Okay.
Yep,
Well, it was good to see you,
you as well.
and I will text you later. Thanks y'all for joining us. It was good to see you too in the chat, and those of you who watch later, thanks so much for being part of our Black Girl World.
Yep. Peace.
Bye.
I can't do what I want to do with my own body, and who in the hell set things up like this? I was wrong again to be me being me where I was. Wrong to be who I am. I am very familiar with the problems of the CIA, and the problems of white America in general, and the problems of the teachers and the preachers and the FBI and the social workers and my particular mom and dad. I am very familiar with the problems because the problems turn out to be me. I am the history of the terrorized incarceration of myself. I am the history of battery, assault, and limitless armies against whatever I want to do with my mind and my body and my soul. I am not wrong. Wrong is not my name. And I can't tell you who the hell set things up like this, but I can tell you that from now on, my resistance, my simple and daily and nightly self-determination may very well cost you your life.